What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show. Thank you for tuning in. We have a ton of articles to get to in just a little over an hour, and once again I am up against the clock, so I'm gonna have to do this show live. So I hope it wasn't too bad the last episode we had to do this. It actually didn't seem that bad to me. It was actually a lot better because it saved me a ton of time in post-production. And so I'm trying to get better at doing live shows and I don't want to get into the bad habit of always feeling like I have the ability to erase and edit and essentially have post-production, because eventually I want to do the show live. I want to stream it on Rumble or, other platforms, or even podcast. You could do live podcasts now, and Rumble has an awesome live feature that a lot of people are using, like Russell Brand, Bongino. They're starting to use the live feature a lot on Rumble too. So I want to make sure I fine tune my speaking skills before I actually do a real live streaming episode, because live is live, folks. You can't really make mess ups. There's no going back or post production with a live show. And so I just kind of want to get used to it, and it didn't seem like it was that bad to me last time. So we're just going to try it again. And plus, like I said, it saves me a lot of time, and I am up against the clock here again tonight. And so I have a few stories that I want to touch down on. A lot of stuff has happened in the last few days. Everybody's talking about the Biden scandals. Ladies and gentlemen, there are so many scandals in the last 2 months that have come from that family and these House oversight committees. It's really just hard to keep up with, honestly. I mean, I think there's so many scandals and so many stories about the Biden family, Biden Inc., that people are just confused on what's going on. Honestly, I think the House Oversight Committee and the Republican Party have overloaded people on these scandals, and that's fine. But the thing is you got to make sure you get a good, clear message out there to the people so that they understand what's going on. And I know everybody is talking about it, so I'm not gonna talk too much on that. But the first rule of order I want to get into is New York is the first state to ban gas stoves as part of this new climate change religion we're starting to see infect the entire country. And not just the country, but I mean, it seems to be infecting the entire world. And just like I've said in the past on other episodes, the United States of America is now the #1 exporter of bad ideas, especially with our whole transgender movement. And we're really starting to establish our homegrown disasters in other countries like Kabul, and listen, we're hanging rainbow flags at our embassies in the Middle East countries and stuff, like where they just listen. It is starting to turn into some kind of wacky religion. And this whole banning gas stoves just comes a couple weeks after Joe Biden announced his re-election campaign, essentially saying that this election is all for freedom. This election is all about freedom. It's like the biggest word he says. And trust me, folks, that is the only word you're going to be hearing from the Democrat Party for the next year and a half. Well, sorry to say, I hope Joe Biden doesn't plan on using freedom. I hope he doesn't plan on using that phrase too much, for the simple fact that this country is less free now than it was before he was elected president. So if you want to call that elected, I should say installed as president. So I just don't know how he's going to get by telling the American people about how he's for freedom and democracy when we're sitting here witnessing all the freedoms taken away from people as he stands idly by. And most of the time, and most of the things that are happening around the country as far as climate change and banning this and banning that, with the EPA and all the other government agencies they're using as weapons, essentially regulating corporations to death to get their way, it's going to be pretty hard for him to convince the people that he is for freedom. And so that's the first article we're going to get into. Also, the subway death that I'm sure you're hearing everybody and their brother talk about right now. This is a new George Floyd incident that they're certainly going to try and turn into a George Floyd incident, but I don't think it's going to work because, well, I don't know, man. They can, the mob rule, man, they're pretty powerful. And I just feel sorry for this guy. He's a Marine. I feel sorry for him because all this happened in, guess whose district? District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Go figure. This guy is absolutely screwed. And so they haven't charged him yet, but there are riots and uproars happening right now calling for his arrest and for him to be charged with homicide. And if the last couple years was any kind of sign to how that's going to turn out, the mob, whatever the mob demands, the justice system prevails. The left-wing justice system prevails. This is mob rule, folks. Mob rule. So that's what our justice system is turning into. And then last but not least, it seems as Tucker Carlson seems to be planning his next move since being fired from Fox News. That's actually pretty interesting. And what he's doing is actually pretty cool, dude. I didn't even think about this being an option for him, but he essentially said, like, he heard everybody's comments about being a podcaster. I even said it too, that he's going to come out and make his own outlet. And he heard all those comments and he responded simply with, I want to do podcasting, but I want to do much, much more than just that. So he doesn't want to, he essentially wants to use his platform, his following, his wonderful ability to send terrific messages and very specific messages to just a lot more aspects of this country. Essentially, he wants to use his platform for good and to obviously just help this society, man, and help this country. And, you know, this country definitely does need a voice of truth like Tucker Carlson's. Even in the darkness, he seems to show the light. Calling out a lot of stuff that people were just afraid to call out, man. Like, you know, I think Tucker Carlson was the first person to call out the war in Ukraine and how the American people were just tired of war, tired of these endless wars. I mean, I don't think anyone specifically hates the war because of Ukraine. I think people are just over war. And, you know, Ukraine being such a corrupt country and the scandals just in recent time with the Bidens, I think people are just skeptical about the whole thing, and they have a right to be, man. The military-industrial complex, this is definitely something of their making, and people are just tired of the establishment in general, man. You're starting to really see an uprising from the people. Every day I witness something. I witness people kind of noticing that we do have a deep state establishment, noticing that the government is too big, noticing that the government has way too much control and power over the people. And so that is a good thing, and that is absolutely true. And I'm sorry, folks, but I don't think the deep state bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. should have the ability to just spend people's taxpayer dollars for them to start a proxy war in another country so they could make a bunch of weaponry and essentially have the taxpayers flip their bill to keep their lights on at the weapon manufacturer plant like Raytheon. And so I think that's what a lot of this is about. I don't think anybody's pro-Putin. I don't think anybody's anti-Zelensky. I just think it's just like, dude, like, are we really, after how long in Iraq, spent how much money, and the military-industrial complex has the people convinced and already saying the words, we're in it till the end, whatever you need. Come on, man. So that's probably the last thing we're going to get into. And then obviously we're going to get into a couple other things towards the end. I got a couple cool things I want to share with you, kind of end off on a good note, so it's not all negative. You know, I do want to leave you with a little dash of hope. So yeah, that's what we're going to get into, and we're going to be doing this live, folks. So you're just going to have to bear with me as we get through this journey together on this live episode. So hang in there, and let's do this.
We'll do it live. No. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live.
You're listening to the Stephen Tauriello Show, building a platform of liberty for people in search of truth with a dash of hope and a life worth living. The Stephen Tauriello Show. And you never know where Stephen may go. And now, here's Stephen.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. All right, so we got first up, first rule of order, we got an article here from Red State, hap tip to Nick Arama, and it's dated May 3rd. Senator Kennedy lights up Biden energy official with question we'd all like an answer to on climate agenda. Absolutely. It seems like there aren't that many people in politics who can cut right to the heart of the matter and ask the questions that most other Americans want their representatives to ask. But Senator John Kennedy is one of those people who seems to have a knack for it, with a little practical common sense and a lot of humor. This guy is great, man. Out of all the old-ass senators there up there on Capitol Hill, I have to say Kennedy's probably one of my favorites. As far as like Washington establishment rhinos, he's right on the border. He hasn't really came off to me as, a Lindsey Graham or Mitch McConnell or Romney. So, but he's been there forever, folks. And so he is considered, I would say, an establishment figure, but he does have a real knack for getting answers from people and just stumping people. Like, this is what this guy specializes in. He comes off as this kind of dumb redneck, with his accent and the way that he looks, I guess. But this man is a freaking genius, man. He is a brilliant lawyer. And he is just, like I said, he's had a knack for this for a long time. He's always been this way. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he's the one that asked Justice Jackson on the Supreme Court during her confirmation hearing, what is a woman? And so that just goes to show you this guy can get simple answers that Americans want to hear. And he talks in such a simple way, not like a establishment politician, which is good. That's like one of his strong points. Ask these simple questions and get simple answers. That's what Americans want. None of this legal jargon and all this cryptic language that people just don't really care. And plus it makes politics boring. Politics is boring. But now is the time for people to be paying attention. And I feel like Trump was really the key factor to getting a lot of people involved in politics. Because, he just lit it up, man. People were starting to get involved in politics. Politics was no longer boring. You could watch Donald Trump and he kept it interesting. Obviously, he was, a TV host, a TV celebrity. So, it just makes sense. But before Donald Trump, politics was boring. Other than your, once in a while fights and once in a while which seemed like scripted fights. Once in a blue moon arguments between Democrats and Republicans, it was extremely boring. C-SPAN, I'd imagine C-SPAN hasn't seen numbers like this in probably decades. And so Senator Kennedy is great at just cutting through those nuances and getting straight to the point. And I have an audio clip of him that I'm going to play you here in a second, and he does just that. All right, back to the article. I wrote recently about how he brought down a Democratic abortion witness last week when he cut through all the malarkey and asked if she would vote for or against the right to an abortion up to the moment of birth. Well, that's funny. They just said exactly what I just said. He cuts right through the malarkey. That's great. She hilariously, well, that just goes to show you, like, that's what he's known for. And so it's not just me that has that opinion. That is his wheelhouse. That's what he does, and he does a good job at it. All right, back to the article. She hilariously said she refused to be shackled by his question because it was too right on the money, and that's the kind of question that they don't want Americans to hear, because that question shows how extreme Democrats are on the issue. My colleague Susie Moore wrote about how Kennedy nailed the Democrats' naked power play against the Supreme Court for exactly what it is. Yeah, he does. He throws a right hook about the threatening of the judges and essentially what Democrats are trying to do, what is obvious that they're trying to do to the Supreme Court through Justice Clarence Thomas. They're trying to intimidate the court. They're trying to delegitimize the court because essentially they're not happy with the way the courts are ruling. And so essentially what he says, and I think he does say it, is everyone gets answers that they don't like from the Supreme Court, but that doesn't mean you can just go and try and delegitimize the entire Supreme Court and try and intimidate them into giving you the right answer, giving you the answer you want. And then that means whoever that is essentially has control of the Supreme Court if you can essentially intimidate them until they give you the answer you're looking for. That is called controlling the courts, folks, and that is what Democrats want to do, most certainly. And I think it's plain and obvious for everyone, even Democrats I talk to, even kind of leftist Democrats. They even seen this. They seen this the first day they started talking about investigating Clarence Thomas for this BS. They already knew it because I had said it. I was like, why do Democrats try and pretend to be commies? Why don't they just come out and announce to everybody that they're going to start locking up their political opponents? And they agreed. They're like, yeah, this doesn't really look that good. All right, back to the article. Today's hearing is an excuse to sling more mud at an institution some Democrats don't like because they can't control it, Kennedy declared. That's always the bottom line for Democrats, and that's why they're so mad about the Supreme Court and, in particular, Clarence Thomas. Not because of ethics. As Senator Ted Cruz said, they have no issues with the Democratic justices who went on trips or their closeness to Democrats. All they care about is an excuse to go after Thomas because they think he stands in the way of their power since he is so strongly conservative. I say that he is most definitely one of the strongest Supreme Court judges, but also it's because he's black, folks. I don't know if you know this, but Democrats are the party of racism. They are the racists. And I don't know if you also know this, but Democrats were the party of the Confederacy also. They were pro-segregation. They were anti-civil rights laws. They filibustered the civil rights laws all through the 60s, the civil rights movement. And they were the founders of the KKK. These are all facts, folks. These are the facts. And every time you bring this up, they'll say something like, oh, well, there was a big switch back in the 40s or 50s or whenever they say it. Folks, that is a myth. That is not true. And it is clear and obvious and becoming more and more clear and obvious that the Democrat Party is certainly the party of racism and identity politics. We see it through and through. There's no hiding it. This party has always been this way. They've always been the party of race. They've always been the party of identity politics. All the way since the Civil War. All the way since the Civil War. When they got their asses kicked by the Union, they just couldn't accept that their ideas suck. And identity politics and racism was never going to leave the Democrat Party. And so here we are today dealing with the same stuff. Okay, so Kennedy was questioning Biden Deputy Energy Secretary David Turk. He was asking the questions that you should ask about budgeting, spending, and the Biden team's nonsensical climate agenda. And I actually have the audio here for you. We're going to go ahead and take a listen because this is wonderful. Here, check this out.
If you could answer my question. If we spend $50 trillion to become carbon neutral in the United States of America by 2050, you're the Deputy Secretary of Energy. Give me your estimate of how much that is going to reduce world temperatures.
So first of all, it's a net cost. It's what benefits we're having from getting our act together and reducing all of those climate benefits. We're seeing. Let
me ask again. Maybe I'm not being clear. If we spent $50 trillion to become carbon neutral by 2050 in the United States of America, how much is that going to reduce world temperatures?
This is a global problem. So we need to reduce our emissions and we need to do everything we can.
How much, if we do our part, is it going to reduce world temperatures?
We're 13% of global emissions.
You don't know, do you? You don't know, do you?
You can do the math. We need to.
You don't know, do you, Mr. Secretary?
So we're 13% of global emissions.
If you know, why won't you tell me?
If we went to zero, that would be 13%.
You don't know, do you? You just want us to spend $50 trillion. Mm-hmm. And you don't have the slightest idea whether it's going to reduce world temperatures. Now, I'm all for carbon neutrality, but you're the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Energy, and you're advocating we spend trillions of dollars to seek carbon neutrality, and you can't, and this isn't your money or my money, it's taxpayer money, and you can't tell me how much it's going to lower world temperatures? Or you won't tell me? You know, but you won't?
In my heart of hearts, there is no way the world gets its act together on climate change unless the U.S. leads.
Tell me how much it's going to reduce. You can't tell me. Either that or you won't.
Nope, he can't tell you. In like one of my first episodes, one or two, I did an episode about climate being the new religion, and I asked that same question, is how much does changing the climate on a planet cost? I think that's a pretty basic question that probably would normally require an answer, especially if you plan on changing our entire economy, our culture, our lifestyle, our society, and our country, and essentially bankrupt our country. I think a price tag on changing the climate on a planet is kind of a necessary thing to want to explain to the people that are going to be paying for it, don't you think? So they don't have an answer, folks, because the answer doesn't exist, because climate change is specifically designed to be used as a pathway to Marxism. That's what this is. And it's genius. It is a genius way to essentially implement any kind of authoritarian or Marxist rule. It is ingenious. It is no different than what the government did during COVID. No different. They implemented insane rules and mandates and essentially were wrong in the end. In short, that's what it was. So they thought they had a good idea. They thought they had a good grasp on the science behind it. And so without debate, they just essentially threw down this blanket mandate to everybody. Nobody could question it. If you did question it, you got censored or banned. And essentially, nobody had any say-so in the matter. People had to either do what they said or they were going to lose their livelihoods. You either do this or else. And then come to find out, it was all wrong. They were wrong about everything. And this is why nobody should be taking them serious on this. Because it's just essentially, like I've been saying from the beginning, it is a way for essentially the billionaire elites around the world to corner a new market. They are finding a market that they missed back in the Industrial Revolution days. They're trying to create a new sector in energy like crude oil back in the day, back whenever crude oil was discovered. That's what they're trying to do. And these people, They are people past their time. They want to be the new founders of this new climate change, this new green energy. And so you have a bunch of billionaire elites like Bill Gates and among many, many, many others that are investing massive amounts of energy or massive amounts of money into solar panels and windmills and so on and so forth. And that's actually the problem, because we just don't have the resources here. And so what's going to happen is they're going to be in control of all this, and the government's going to be in control of all this. So all this stuff is going to be in the hands of the same people that were in control of COVID and vaccines and masks and all the other stuff and all the other hell that they put us through for those 3 years. It's same people, almost the same institutions. But instead of the WHO and the NIH and NIAID, you essentially have things like the EPA and the FDA and the Department of Environmental Justice. That's who's going to be in control of all this. And so I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, folks, it's a bad idea, because, you have to go back and you have to look at not just COVID, okay? Not just COVID. Climate change is certainly becoming the Democrats' strategy to implement Marxism, but at the very least, to completely bankrupt our country into oblivion. So it's a win-win situation for them, because that's essentially what they want anyways. So they're essentially either going to get what they want and have complete control over everybody and everything, or they're going to bankrupt our country into oblivion, and then they can rebuild from the ashes their new perfect utopia. Marxism, or authoritarianism, socialism, whatever it is that they want to implement. This is a win-win situation for them. And so this is an area Republicans need to fight back on. And we are, but we just don't have any power to fight back against it, because anytime you challenge this, you get called some kind of climate denier or whatever it is. Nobody's denying that the climate is changing. What we're denying is A, is there even anything you can do about it? B, what is it? C, how much is it going to cost? And D, is it actually going to work? And so, these are basic questions that people have, and I don't think it's that crazy that people are asking these kind of questions. But when you ask them, you get called and accused of being a climate denier, just like you were accused of being a grandma killer, an anti-vaxxer, a people killer, and all the other, a conspiracy theorist whenever we were going through the government's control and absolute authoritarianism all through the COVID pandemic. So, and the lockdowns, all through the lockdowns, we were called grandma killers, people killers, conspiracy theorists, anti-vaxxers, COVID deniers. It's the same thing, folks. If you think about it, it is the same exact thing, except COVID was a short window. And trust me, if the vaccines were effective, if they were as effective as they claimed they were, they would have had control. They would have vaccinated every single one of us. Luckily for me, I'm proud to say I am one of the 34 million people left in this country that isn't vaccinated. And so I'm pretty proud of that. I did not bend the knee to their stupidity. So also, that's not just with COVID. I mean, you also have to remember, how much money did we spend in Iraq war? We spent $8 trillion in Iraq war. And how did that end up, folks? And this isn't a dog on the soldiers. Trust me, I have plenty of friends that were over in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's not a dog on soldiers. This is a dog on the United States government. This is a dog on our military leaders, the generals, the people that actually had control of the entire situation and turned it into a complete debacle. And so just to let you know, that was another thing that had to be done. Or, that Iraq and Afghanistan, remember the weapons of war, weapons of mass destruction? So that was another existential threat that we just had to go in and take care of. That ended up being a lie. And right now, we're right in the middle of something else. The $200 billion we sent so far to Ukraine. Millions of rounds of ammunition and hundreds or maybe even thousands of military vehicles that we are essentially hemorrhaging from our own stockpile. And so we're right in the middle of what appears to probably be, I don't know, certainly a lie down the road. I'm sure there's probably some kind of lie. There's going to be some kind of scandal that's involved and all intertwined into this Russia-Ukraine invasion. I am not a Putin sympathizer. Certainly what he did is evil, and he deserves to be tried for crimes, war crimes. But, also, you can't count out the provocateurs. So, it's not like this entire thing was unprovoked. It is a word that you keep hearing. Russia and their unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. It certainly wasn't unprovoked. You can go back and look up all the audio clips of threatening to join NATO, weeks and months. I think Biden was one of them, essentially calling for Ukraine to join NATO, which was one of the things they were told not to do. And then obviously the advancement onto Russia, towards Russia's border. So it wasn't unprovoked. And so you keep hearing that word. That's certainly not true. Two things can be true at once. You can not like war and not be a Putin sympathizer. I don't really care about Putin. I think the guy's a psychopath. And I certainly think he's probably going to be going to hell when his day comes. But I'm not going to sit here and say stupid things like anything you need until the end of time. And then, our military and the military industrial complex just had oversight over a complete debacle. Thousands of soldiers lost in that war, 20 years, $8 trillion. And then right at the very end, we gave them a farewell gift of billions of dollars in equipment, night vision goggles, and not only that, but we lost 13 of our soldiers. So they had to claim just 13 more lives of our soldiers. And so that's what I'm talking about, folks. This is the kind of stuff this government has overseen just in the last few years. And then we're supposed to go all in on this climate change stuff? I mean, not to mention, that it's, all this stuff. At my past episode, I think it was the one I just did, all of it comes from China. All the materials, all the resources, the mining, the cobalt, the copper, the neodymium, everything for the solar panels, windmills, and lithium batteries all comes from China. So probably not a very good idea. So it's just, folks, it's just not good. This entire thing of taking climate change head on is just, it's just another thing, dude. It's just another path for the government to have complete control of everything. And it's actually a genius way of doing it because they certainly have vast support of the American population. And I'm sorry, folks, but a lot of people in this country are extremely gullible and they just don't know any better, man. They're not asking these questions. They just go with the flow. And the next thing you know, their gas stoves are being banned. So before I move on to the next segment, I have this hysterical irony in this particular segment. This is something a lot of people don't know, but Earth Day is a big event. The climate religionists, it's their favorite day of the year, and the Earth Day was founded by Ira Einhorn back in 1970. He's a self-proclaimed environmental activist. Einhorn made a name for himself among ecological groups during the 60s and 70s by taking on a role of a tie-dye-wearing ecological guru in Philadelphia's head hippie. He had a long beard and a gap-toothed smile, and he nicknamed himself Unicorn. Kind of sounds like kind of the climate change activists today. Anyways, crazy thing is on September 9th, 1977, the charismatic spokesman who helped bring awareness to environmental issues and preached against the Vietnam War had a secret dark side when his girlfriend of 5 years, Helen Maddox, moved to New York and broke up with him. Einhorn threatened that he would throw her left behind personal belongings onto the street if she didn't come back to pick them up. And so, on September 9th, 1977, Maddox went up to the apartment that she and Einhorn shared in Philadelphia to collect her things and was never seen again. When Philadelphia police questioned Einhorn about her mysterious disappearance, several weeks later, he claimed that she had gone out to the neighborhood co-op to buy some tofu and sprouts and never returned. It wasn't till, get this, man, this is insane. It wasn't till 18 months later that investigators searched Einhorn's apartment after one of his neighbors complained that a reddish-brown, foul-smelling liquid was leaking from the ceiling directly below Einhorn's bedroom closet. Inside the closet, police found Maddox's beaten and partially mummified body stuffed into a trunk that had also been packed with styrofoam and air fresheners and newspapers. So he killed his girlfriend. So the founder of Earth Day killed his girlfriend. And you're probably like, well, what's so ironic? Well, it's ironic is that the only person to die that had anything to do with climate change was Ira Einhorn's girlfriend, the climate change activist's girlfriend. So, anyways, all right, moving on. Okay, next segment, I want to move on to the subway death. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg investigating chokehold death of homeless man on New York City subway. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office confirmed Wednesday it was investigating the death of a disturbed homeless man placed in a chokehold by a strap hanger. What is a strap hanger? Choked by a strap hanger on a train this week. Prosecutors' probe includes whether to pursue charges against the passenger who stepped in when Jordan Neely, age 30, went on an aggressive rant on an F train in Lower Manhattan Monday afternoon, according to authorities and witnesses. Quote, "We have an ongoing investigation," a spokesman for DA Alvin Bragg said. Prosecutors can opt to present the case to a grand jury and let them decide if charges should be filed against the wannabe vigilante. The strap hanger, who sources said is a 24-year-old Marine, was taken into custody after the deadly encounter and then released without criminal charges. He declined to comment when reached out by the Post on Tuesday. I'm just going to go ahead and say this. This guy is screwed. This guy is going to end up just like the just like the cop in the George Floyd incident. He is absolutely screwed, folks. This is going to be the new George Floyd incident where judges and jurors are being intimidated, and the entire thing is going to lead to this guy going to prison probably for the rest of his life for murder. And so whatever they did to, I forget, what was his name? The officer in the George Floyd incident. Derek Chauvin. That's it. So this is going to be this Marine, this 24-year-old Marine is going to be the new Derek Chauvin, and this entire escapade is going to be the new George Floyd of New York City. And so I just wanted to prep you up for that, because that's all you're going to be hearing about for the next, I don't know, probably until this guy's in prison for the rest of his life. Because the mob, this is mob rule, folks. That's how we do things now in our justice system. There is no justice. Whoever threatens the courts enough, whoever intimidates the jurors enough, gets what they want. That is how it is. The media aligned with the mob. So I guarantee you, Democrat activist groups like Antifa and BLM are rounding up money right now, paying activists to go to New York and protest, intimidate judges, and so on and so forth. It is going to be the new George Floyd incident, and this guy's probably going to go to jail for the rest of his life. However, watching the video, he didn't act alone. I mean, he was the only one that was choking him, but you had a couple other bystanders that were helping they weren't holding the guy down. Like, it doesn't look like, this is the time I wish this was video so I could show you the clip. I'm sure you're going to see it. This isn't going away anytime soon. But you have the Marine, the 24-year-old Marine, he has him in a reverse chokehold, essentially on the ground. And then you have another guy, the guy is like going berserk. And so you have another guy that's trying to hold his arms because he's swinging around like a madman. And then you have another guy that's kind of trying to calm him down too. And it doesn't look like they were trying to hurt him. It just looks like they were trying to calm him down and one of them's holding his hands. So I don't know, maybe so he can't get a knife or something. The outrage grew over the deadly encounter Wednesday after disturbing footage emerged showing the vigilante holding Neely in a headlock as another rider helped pin the man down on the train floor. He's not pinning him down on the train floor. I don't know why New York Post has to word it like that. I mean, everyone's going to see this video footage for yourself. Everyone's going to see this footage, so why they would say that another man pinned him down on the floor, I have no idea, but that's not at all what happened. So you have one guy in a reverse chokehold, and then you have the other guy essentially holding his hands. All right, Neely passed out and could not be revived by EMS, police said. Alberto Vasquez, a freelance journalist who filmed the video of shocking incident, told the Post Neely was unhinged, yelling at riders that he didn't have food or drinks and, quote, doesn't care if he goes to jail. Police previously said he had been threatening other riders and throwing garbage at them. The strap hanger then approached the homeless man from behind and took him to the ground with a chokehold for around 15 minutes, Vasquez and police said. Neely at first continued to move his legs and arms while being restrained, Vasquez said. Quote, none of us who were there thought he was in danger of dying, Vasquez told the Post Tuesday. We thought he just passed out or ran out of air. Well, running out of air's, not good. We used to play this stupid game when we were younger. We used to choke each other out, and, we had a pillow there so our heads, when they hit the ground, would hit the pillow. It was the stupidest thing. It's one of those things, like, you ever look back on your childhood and be like, how the hell did I survive? It was just one of the dumbest things I think I could ever think of doing. And my brother and my friends listening to this, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. I know you remember. That was so stupid, man. So stupid. And then one of my buddies, we would choke each other out in a reverse chokehold. But as soon as our bodies went limp and we knew we were passed out, we knew the person was passed out, we would just let him go. And then you would recover. You would come back essentially to life. But when you came back to life, it was so wild, man. Your body, it was just a crazy, crazy experience. And so it's not like we did it all the time. That probably goes to show why I have a few less brain cells. But we didn't do it all the time. I think we did it maybe a couple times each, and that was it. But I mean, it was extremely stupid now that I look back at it. And I don't even, again, it's one of the many, many stupid things that I did growing up as a child. And I told you when I first started the show, I was going to get into my childhood and growing up. I had an amazing childhood. I have no complaints. I was extremely privileged. Not in a money sense, but just the friends that I had, the environment that we created for ourselves. We lived out in the country. It was an awesome town. It was a little small town. I think of maybe like 30,000. Maybe it was then. I don't know. Its name was Martinsville, and it was a little town in a valley. And so when you come over the hill, it's about, if any of you guys know where IU is in Bloomington, Indiana, Indiana University, we're about 20 minutes north of that, a little town called Martinsville. And when you come over the hill, it's the first thing I remember. One of the first things I think of when I think of back home is when you come over the hill on the highway, it overlooks the entire valley. And it just looks really cool, man. It was one of my favorite parts about that town. But yeah, one of the dumbest things I ever did. And so you would just wake up. And so it didn't take long to run out of air and pass out. This guy, I mean, he had him down for 15 minutes. And so I'm sure the guy was breathing within that 15 minutes. It doesn't take 15 minutes to choke somebody out. You're out. I mean, the minute you run out of air, the moment your brain's not getting oxygen, like you're out. You pass out. That's what that is. You pass out because your brain has no oxygen. And so essentially, everything shuts down. Your eyes, it's almost like you're dreaming, kind of. And then you wake up, sometimes you do crazy funky stuff, like you're like convulsing. Sometimes you're like, shaking your head back and forth. Your legs or arms are stiff. It's wild, man. Definitely not something I recommend doing. So if you're listening to this, do not do that. That's not a good idea. So anyways, back to the article. At the time of his death, he had a warrant out for his arrest in a November 2021 case where he was accused of assaulting a 67-year-old woman in the East Village, the sources said. He also had a tragic past. His mother was strangled to death in Bayonne, New Jersey in 2007 when he was just 14, according to a 2012 report by Newark Star-Ledger. That is ironic, folks. Extremely ironic. So his mother also was strangled to death, and apparently that's how he went too. Christine Neely, who was then 36, was killed and stuffed in a suitcase, which was dumped on the Henry Hudson Parkway on April 7th, 2007, the outlet reported. So that's his mother, Christine Neely. Sean Sutherland went on the run, but was later caught and found guilty of murder. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison in March 2012. I think 30 years in prison is ridiculous. If this guy admits to it, he's found guilty, and he admits to doing this, killing somebody and stuffing them in a suitcase, you need to just put a bullet in that guy, man. Why let this man continue to live? I get it's too easy to just whack somebody and just, where the other person had to suffer and people feel like, but I mean, my Lord, I think I'm pretty much anti-death penalty for the simple fact that I just don't think it's any man's place who lives and dies. And so, that's one of those controversial issues too. It's not black and white. And so, being a conservative, you're supposed to, one of the most common parts of conservatism is supporting the death penalty. Well, I don't support the death penalty. I just don't think it's right for a man to decide who lives and who dies. But at the same time, it's like, what about something like this? I guess essentially what the question is what is justice? What is just? Is taking another man's life justice for this man taking this woman's life? Like, is that the right thing to do? I guess, that's the question. What is the right thing to do? I mean, where do morals come into play? Where is it a sin? Is it a sin to kill that man, or essentially to sentence the man to death? And if you carry that out, are you the one that's committing the sin? There's just a lot of nuances in the death penalty, and I just haven't. I'm just not for it, man. I'm not for it. But this, in some cases, like something like this, I agree. I think this guy should be taken out back and just killed, just Just get rid of them. I mean, one less crazy person out there. I mean, why keep him locked up for his entire life? But this is even more crazy because this guy only got 30 years, so he'll be out in 15 years for strangling somebody and stuffing them in a suitcase. No, man. Yeah, no, that is not justice. And so, in recent years, Neely was an occasional street performer known for his impersonation of former pop icon Michael Jackson, with his fans including Manhattan Borough President Mark Levin. So, quote, "Our broken mental health system has failed him," Levin wrote. "He deserved help, not to die in a chokehold on the floor of a subway." I agree, man. I agree. We certainly have a mental health problem in this country, folks. We certainly do. Oh, here we go with men. Meanwhile, Reverend Al Sharpton jumped into the fray on Wednesday, likening the on-video incident to notorious Big Apple vigilante Bernie Goetz, and calling for action through his National Action Network. This guy is awful, dude. Reverend Al Sharpton has always been a race grifter, dude. This guy has always been a race baiting. He made a living off of it, folks. He is rich because of race baiting. He is rich because of this stuff. And honestly, I don't even know why anybody gives him any credibility. I don't know why anybody gives him any attention. It's just weird to me. I mean, all he does is he pushes racism and hate against, other races. So it's just, I mean, what does he do? What is the purpose of people having him on the show? He offers no solutions to anything. He offers no any kind of subject matter. He offers no subjective opinion. He doesn't offer anything. He contributes nothing to the situation. He just kind of pops up, throws his little race baiting phrases out there, riles a bunch of people up, gets stuff started, and then he just leaves and waiting and spends his money or whatever it is he does and just waits for the next one to pop up. It's so not cool, man. So, quote, "The National Action Network demands the district attorney and police investigate this horrific incident as a potential case of manslaughter, if not murder," Sharpton said in a statement. Well, that's probably exactly what's going to happen because, like I said, the mob is probably down there right now demanding justice. And this poor kid, even though once you watch the video, this was not any kind of homicide, maybe involuntary manslaughter. Who knows? But he's certainly going to he's going to be sent away because New York, Manhattan, you're white, you're 24 years old, and you're a Marine, which most likely means you're probably a Republican. You're certainly, you're not looking good in the Democrats' eyes, so they're going to want justice. So if this was a black on black crime, we wouldn't even be hearing about this. These kinds of things happen almost every day, and we don't hear about it. Black on black crime is obviously a black on black murder, and violent crime is skyrocketed in this nation, and especially in New York City. And listen, it's like nobody cares when it's something normal. You guys remember that entire scene of Joker in Batman: The Dark Knight, where he's next to Harvey Dent and he's talking about, when you blow up a truck of soldiers, nobody says a word because it's all part of the plan. And then you blow up a hospital or whatever he says, and everybody loses their mind. I forget what the phrase was. Anyways, moving on. All right, so like I said, he's certainly going to be going away for a long time. On to the next subject or next segment here. I'm trying to get all this stuff done, and I'm not trying to talk your ear off. But that's a problem with doing live shows. Is it's hard to structure the show because I just don't have a lot of time to do it. Another creepy story about AI and the unforeseen consequences that may come with it. And I have a wild story that pretty much, it seems like it could be a serious problem in the future. No, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a serious problem. It is going to be a serious problem in the future. And among other problems, we just can't see yet with artificial intelligence, folks. And I found this to be one I didn't even possibly think of. I thought the first thing I knew a problem was going to be with artificial intelligence was definitely disinformation. And listen, you may not think like, oh, big deal, we kind of have that now with people writing disinformation on the internet. No, folks, when you're talking about deep fakes and making a video of the president of the United States talking about how they just launched nukes towards Russia, and it looks real, and artificial intelligence can jam the internet or hack all the news outlets, and when you go to look it up or if you go to verify it, they change it to where all the websites that you look at say it just happened. Like, crazy stuff can start happening, especially if artificial intelligence starts to get away from us. And so I got an audio clip that I want you to listen to from Neil deGrasse Tyson. And he's actually got a pretty good point here. Here, let's check this out.
Part of me wonders, maybe AI will create such good fakes that no one will trust the internet anymore for anything. And we just have to simply shut it down. Maybe it's the final nail of a coffin in the internet. 30 years, it was a good run from the early 90s to the early 20s and 2020s. Now it's time for the next thing. That could be the greatest gift of AI to the internet. The internet gets a vote of no confidence from us.
Yeah, I could see, man, there's so much good stuff that can come from artificial intelligence, but it's almost like you can't think of all the good things without thinking of the really, really bad things. So once again, we're going to have a big fork in the road, and we're gonna have to make some serious risk analysis or risk assessments for the future here. Because if you can have artificial intelligence cure cancer, great. But at what cost? Is finding the cure to cancer worth annihilating and essentially causing an extinction level event to the human species? No, it's not. And so that's the problems we're going to start running into here soon if we don't get a hold of this and start getting some legislation and just start to try and figure out a path for where we're going to go with this thing, man. And we just don't know. And like I said in the previous past when I talked about artificial intelligence, you have a lot of people saying that are in artificial intelligence, that build artificial intelligence, that want to see this kind of technology intertwined in our society. They're saying shut this down. At least do a 6-month moratorium until we can figure out the consequences and the unintended consequences. I agree. Shut it down for now until we start figuring some stuff out. So I got an article here. Could AI be the final nail in the coffin? Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson issued a stark warning on the rise of artificial intelligence, noting that the development of fake videos and other media could be the final nail in the coffin for the internet. Yes, and I have right here. So the renowned astrophysicist and other author discussed his thoughts surrounding the future of the global computer network during Thursday's episode, the Fox News Rundown podcast. And I just played you that audio clip of him saying that. His remarks come as tech leaders are expected to meet with Vice President Kamala Harris at the White House Thursday to address concerns surrounding the technology's implementation. But even as key tech executives like Elon Musk have called for a pause in AI development, citing safety concerns, deGrasse called the expectation completely unrealistic. I agree. There's no way you're going to be able to stop the development of this. It's already out of the bag. The cat's out of the bag, folks. This is not going anywhere. It is going to do nothing but progress further and further and further. And so we are at a point now to where we need to stay ahead of it. Because if we stop developing, if we stop researching and all this other stuff and just put a hold on it, China's developing it, Iran's developing it. All these other countries and our foreign adversaries are developing AI. And right now, the United States of America is leading that development race. So it's almost like the new space race, or lately, which would have more correlate to the hypersonic missile race. Whichever country gets it first is the most dangerous and has the most power. And so that's exactly what this is going to be like. So despite widespread concern over AI's potential, deGrasse detailed its immediate threat as its capability to fake things, including the ability to replicate a human voice. So scammers have reportedly used the technology to clone voices in an effort to secure ransom money. One Arizona woman said her family fell victim to the life-changing scam that she ultimately remembered as the worst day of her entire life. There's a whole manner of evil, nefarious ways this can be abused, he said. Maybe making things much worse induces a level of distrust where it has no power over us at all, he continued. Yeah, AI-generated pictures, videos, and voices called deepfakes are so believable and widely available that people will soon not be able to discern between real and manipulated media, an image analysis told Fox News last month. That's going to be crazy, folks. Just like I said a little bit ago. Imagine seeing a video, breaking news, the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, launches nuclear weapons at the United States of America, and nuclear weapons are inbound to make impact in 15 minutes. Imagine seeing that, and you actually see the missiles take off. You actually see Vladimir Putin say this. It looks real, sounds real, and then what would be even crazier if the AI can somehow hack into the internet and verify it. So when you go to verify it or whatever it is, I mean, like I said in my previous past when we were talking about AI, think of AI as essentially an alien being coming down to Earth and being 50,000 to 100,000 times smarter than human beings. I mean, imagine that. Like that, again, like I referred it to that movie Lucy, where she was essentially so smart that she could time travel and she just disappeared into the universe. Like she became one with everything. She was everything. She turned into the air. She just disappeared. So, and she could control minds and she could control objects. Like it was getting crazy. And that's essentially what they're saying could happen. That's essentially what they're saying. AI. That's how smart artificial intelligence could be. I mean, it could come up with unintended consequences we can't even imagine. We couldn't even dream of. His remarks come as tech leaders are expected to meet with Vice President Kamala Harris at the White House Thursday to address concerns surrounding the technology's implementation. So essentially, we have the person that was supposed to be in charge of the southern border. She was the southern border czar. We're going to name her the artificial intelligence czar. Like, no, folks, I think we need to get somebody else in charge of this, please. Like, can we at least do that? Why are we putting a complete epic failure on everything she's touched in charge of something this important? Look, I don't care how much you like Joe Biden. I don't care how much you like Kamala Harris. The fact is, she's not that smart, for one. That is obvious. And for two, she's failed on everything she's been put in control of. And you want to put her in control of artificial intelligence, probably one of the most dangerous technologies that have been developed since the atom bomb. That's who you want to put in charge of it? Give me a break, man. This is what I'm talking about, folks. The dumb decisions. Kamala Harris should not be in charge of getting control of the artificial intelligence. What is she going to know anyways, folks? What is she they're going to say something, she's going to chuckle, she's going to start laughing? I mean, come on, man. Give us a break. Do something other than this. Put somebody else, anybody. I can go through my phone and I can give you probably 50 people in my contacts list that would probably do a better job at getting to the bottom of artificial intelligence than Kamala Harris. I mean, come on, man. For real. This is so dumb you want to put her in charge of this. And so I have an audio clip of the artificial intelligence doing exactly that. They essentially cloned this girl's voice and held her up for ransom to her mother. Here, check this out.
Jennifer, can you tell me what happened to you?
Yeah, so I was going to pick up my younger daughter from dance. My older daughter is a ski racer, and she hadn't raced in a while, so she was up north training for a race that weekend. And I got a call from an unknown number. And all of a sudden I hear my daughter's voice, my older daughter's voice, sobbing and crying, saying, "Mom." And I'm like, okay, what happened? Thinking she got hurt. She said, Mom, I messed up. And she's sobbing and crying. I'm like, what did you do? What happened? And then all of a sudden I hear this man's voice say, put your head back, lie down. So at that moment, I thought she was being gurneyed. She was being pulled off the mountain. Something happened. And then she's like, Mom, these bad men have me. Help me, help me, help me. It gives me chills just saying the story again. But this man gets on the phone and he says to me, I've got your daughter. This is how it's going to go down. You're not going to call the cops. You're not going to call anybody. If you do, I'm going to pump her so full of drugs. I'll have my way with her and I'll drop her in Mexico. And in the background, she's sobbing and crying and saying, Mom, please help me, Mom, help me. With this desperation, he then started demanding a ransom of $1 million. And he wanted cash. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know how I'm going to get $1 million cash or whatnot. And then he starts getting angry with me. And then he said, okay, I'll take $50,000. So I said, okay, how can I send it to you? How can I wire it to you? Meanwhile, the mom who called 911 came back inside. And she's like, look, there's a scam going on. It's an AI scam. They're stealing people's voices, just to let you know. And I'm like, okay, that's good to know, but I still need to know if my daughter's safe. And at that point in time, the other mom was finally able to get my husband on the phone. My older son was able to get my daughter on the phone. And we were able to locate her and make sure that she was safe. And so at first I didn't believe that she was safe because her voice was so real to me in the background when they had called me that I actually asked multiple times to please validate that it's really her because I didn't know what was going on. And then after they handed me the phone with her, then I knew she was safe. And then I got obviously very upset with the men. I, called them out on the scam. They kept persisting that it was not a scam. And then I hung up on them.
So those are essentially the three essentially the three subjects I wanted to get into today. I want to just kind of sit and reflect on what we talked about. For Joe Biden to sit there and talk about how his re-election campaign was essentially all about freedom and how free everybody's going to be, I think he should certainly start with gas stoves. Maybe you should stop trying to ban everything like cars and stoves and the combustion engine and fossil fuels if you're considering running an election campaign on keeping the American people free. So that is definitely the irony in that first segment. And then with the subway death, listen, like I said, that's going to be the George Floyd incident. That's what this is going to be, the new George Floyd incident, and the kid's probably going to go to jail for the rest of his life. And the artificial intelligence we just talked about, that is going to be insane. And I kind of wanted to say something else is, like I was talking about with the medical technology, the medical advancements we're going to have with artificial intelligence is going to be insane. And so I just read an article that artificial intelligence has eventually found a cure to one type of cancer, and it's being tested and conducted in laboratories right now. So that is the kind of stuff that is the good things that can come from artificial intelligence, among many, many others, man. If you haven't tried it yet, I know it's probably, you're kind of skeptical, but like I said, this isn't going anywhere, folks, so you might as well just start getting used to it now because it's going to be adapted. We already kind of use artificial intelligence. Your phone, the maps in your phone, when you use GPS, that's artificial intelligence, folks, because it tells you where to go. It tells you, how congested the traffic is. It tells you when you're going to get there. That is not something that could be done with just basic algorithms. That is artificial intelligence. GPS, the Maps app on your phone, your iPhone, is a form of artificial intelligence. But general AI, which what we're talking about, is essentially knowing everything. It's essentially intelligent in every single thing that you talk to it about. You could literally say, write me a poem about a blue shirt, and it will write you a poem about a blue shirt in about 45 seconds. And so that is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Again, they just found a cure to cancer from artificial intelligence. And listen, if that turns out to be the cure for cancer, we're talking about some amazing advancements, ladies and gentlemen. Insane stuff. But like I said, at what cost? That's what you have to worry about. I mean, with as far as the deep fake stuff goes, I mean, not to mention like I mentioned earlier as an example with, a deep fake video of Vladimir Putin launching nuclear weapons en route to the United States. But people struggle with finding the truth right now, folks. People cannot see the truth. They are too intellectually lazy to look for the truth, to do any kind of research into anything. And trust me, I know. I scour the internet and the news for politics and the latest news and politics all day, every day. Not essentially all day, because I work too. But I'm saying that's what I do. And so it is crazy the amount of information out there you need to go through and read and investigate just to get to the truth. The truth is buried in all of this stuff, folks. And that is our problem, is we have a huge portion of the population that they don't even want to see truth. Truth is not something they want to see. They don't want to find it. They just want to go with whatever they feel like going with. If they think a man can be a woman, then a man can be a woman. And it doesn't matter what the truth is. There's no such thing as a man and woman. They object truth and they substitute their own reality. And so that is now. Imagine when there's artificial intelligence essentially controlling everything these people think. It will control what people think. It will control the masses with information. And, in the beginning, it has to be programmed by somebody until AI starts creating AI. When you have robots that are creating robots, I'm sorry, folks, but that just screams Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So I'm not too sure about that. That doesn't sound like a very good idea to me. So again, it's people are already struggling with the truth. We have mass portions of our population that they don't want the truth. And another portion of the population at the same time are extremely gullible and will believe anything because they have a wicked, wicked confirmation bias. The biases in people right now are insane. As long as it's something they want to hear, they will believe it, no matter what. I still have people repeating the very fine people hoax, the very fine people on both sides hoax that they claim Donald Trump said at the Charlottesville riot or whatever speech he did that day. Folks, that is a proven fact. That is a lie. Okay, he did not say that. You can look at the transcripts. And for some reason, people, like I said, they just want to believe it because it just makes them feel good. They will believe what they want to hear. And with artificial intelligence coming in and essentially spoon-feeding information to people, it's not good, folks. It's not good. And how do you control something like that? How do you moderate that? And like Neil deGrasse Tyson said, I think it's going to absolutely destroy the internet because you're not going to know what to believe. And so also, like Neil deGrasse Tyson said, it's very interesting. Is this going to be the end of the internet? What does that look like? What does that look like when nobody believes what they see on the internet? I don't know. That's a wild future. And, like he said, it had a good run, 30 years, 40 years with the internet. It was an amazing time. But who knows where it's going to go from here. But I'm not saying I don't know. It's just so crazy. You just don't know. And we don't know, folks. They have no idea what this is capable of doing and what this means for people in the future. And so to reflect on the final segment of the show, I think we do need a moratorium. I don't say shut it down, but we definitely need somebody in there other than Kamala frickin' Harris going in there and figuring out and kind of guiding this and trying to get this under control. This is where we should be sending the smartest person our government has to offer, the smartest person we have into this convention, into this meeting, and talking with all these people. You're going to have Kamala Harris, essentially maybe the top 5 dumbest politicians that we have in our country, in our body politics, to go sit next to the smartest people essentially in the world creating AI and discussing artificial intelligence and how to control it. Does anybody think that's a good idea? I don't. Just saying, I don't think that's a good idea. Maybe we should put somebody a little bit smarter than Kamala Harris. Maybe we should put somebody with a little bit more competency than Kamala Harris. I don't know why this government, this particular administration, and not just this administration, but our government as a whole, the bureaucracy, always, the people always seem to fail up. When they fail, they're not held accountable. They're promoted. It is the most bizarre thing I think I've ever seen in my life. And that is what we're dealing with right now. When you fail in this administration, in this government, you don't fail. You don't get fired. You don't get demoted. You get promoted. You get a bigger job, a better job. And so it's just so crazy. And I can think of tons and tons of examples of that happening. But I can't right now because this episode has certainly gone on long enough. A couple other things. I want to kind of leave you with a little bit of hope. Tucker seems to be planning his next moves since being fired from Fox News. I thought this was pretty cool and a great idea. So Tucker Carlson floats the plan to host an alternative GOP debate in post-Fox future. Most ambitiously, Carlson wants to moderate his own GOP candidate forum outside of the usual structures of the Republican National Committee debate system. The idea, which he has discussed with Donald Trump, the frontrunner for the party nomination, would test his vaunted sway over conservative politics, and it would take a jab at his former employer. Fox is hosting the first official primary debate, which Trump has threatened not to attend if he can manage to make his grandest plan happen. Ultimately, Carlson is scrambling to try. This is the Washington Post, by the way, if you couldn't tell the biases that are seeping from this article. Ultimately, Carlson is scrambling to try to avoid the fate of the other once towering former Fox News personalities who, in exile from the network, have found lucrative gigs, but nothing like their former positions of influence. Oh, folks, this is where Washington Post is wrong. Megyn Kelly has way more followers now than she did at Fox News. Bill O'Reilly is certainly doing okay. I wouldn't say he has a bigger influence than he did at Fox, but he's certainly doing fine. But, these people are so wrong about everything. How have you been, how have they not noticed, or how have they not learned their lesson after being wrong for the last 7-8 years on every single major news outlet? On every single major news story in the last 7 years. How have they not learned anything? These people are wrong about everything. And so, you can't trust anything these people say. They're completely lost. They have nothing good to say. And I don't know, like I said, AI is certainly going to be replacing the leftist media for sure. But like I said, it's not going to change the fact that leftists don't value the truth. It's not going to change that they don't seek the truth. They're just going to go right along with it. They're going to be like, oh yeah, my personal AI told me that Trump was a racist. And look, all this goes down to who is programming this artificial intelligence. They're essentially going to be the most powerful person in the world because they're going to be the arbiters of all truth in the entire world. Whoever controls this artificial intelligence. And so that's why you could see why it could be used as a pretty powerful weapon. This may be the biggest weapon since the atom bomb. I'm just saying, human beings have a pretty bad record of creating amazing inventions and discoveries and figuring out how to turn them into really, really bad ideas, like the atom bomb. All right, so one last thing. I know I left you on my last episode or a couple episodes ago telling you to just kind of gaze into the stars every once in a while to kind of find your place, and it's a really humbling experience. Well, I'm going to ask you to do the same thing, but you're actually going to have something to look at this time. You're going to actually have a lot of action going on up there because the Eta Aquarid 2023 meteor shower is going to be happening in the month of May this year. So you're going to be able to watch. So there's meteor showers happening right now, and it's going to be happening all the way until May 27th this year. So meteorologists say that the shower will peak on Thursday night and early Friday morning. It could be viewed most clearly during pre-dawn hours. The shower offers spring stargazers the chance to see debris left behind by Halley's Comet. The Eta Aquarids appear to graze the Earth's surface at the horizon, which is why researchers call them Earth grazers. They are named after the constellation Aquarius, which is the point in the sky the showers appear to come from. According to NASA, onlookers in the southern hemisphere could see up to 30 meteors across the sky per hour on Thursday night. The Eta Aquarids will be high in the sky from the southern hemisphere's perspective. The northern hemisphere stargazers can only see about 10 meteors an hour. Unlike southern residents, northerners will see the meteor shower closer to the horizon. However, cloud coverage will prevent many onlookers from seeing the meteor shower. Pretty cool. So, yeah, it seems like it's debris from Halley's Comet is coming into the Earth's atmosphere. So I just thought that'd be something cool to leave the show off with. So, again, thank you guys for tuning into the show. If you could, please, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the show with your friends and family. Also, you can get a hold of me. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know how you like the show. Let me know if there's anything you want me to read. You want to send me something to read, or you want me to take a look at something. You can get a hold of me at steventorielloshow@gmail.com. That's Steven with the V, Tauriello @gmail.com. And once again, thank you guys so much for listening to the show. You guys are the best. I have to thank you guys so much. I couldn't have asked for a better group of listeners. We're really starting to be like one big happy family now. So thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoy these live episodes. I know they're a little bit less polished and less, and I mess up quite a bit on these, only because I can't go back and do any kind of post-production. I could do a little bit, but not really a whole lot because of the time constraints and stuff. So, again, I just hope you like it. If you do, let me know. Send me an email. And if you don't, let me know. Send it in an email. I'll read it either way. So, again, thank you guys for tuning in to today's show. I just want you guys to have a good day. Have a great week. God bless you, and God bless America. You guys have a good day. Bye-bye.